House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.
Hello and half a day, my friends. We are opening up our show, our wisdom, our knowledge, our Zoom room to you and everything because we are talking about open houses today. And Liz is there, Gina's there. I'm right here at KUAM. And ladies, I've been to a couple open houses. I actually helped one of my friends who was a realtor, and she's left the island. But Gina, you were saying you wanted to talk about this topic because apparently open houses are on the up and up again. There've been a few of them, right?
Brokers and customers, for a while, that COVID cloud that was over a lot of the things that we did, that's completely gone now. People are now back to, you know, it's normal again. At least we feel a little bit normal again. And so open houses is a really great way to showcase your listing that you have for sale. So a lot of the brokerage offices are having open houses again, including our company. And it's a great opportunity for buyers to come and take a look at the property. And we kind of just wanted to go over some of the guidelines because, of course, last year there was a lawsuit regarding agency relationships, and now there has to be some clarification when you go to an open house what we're
Oh,
allowed to
really?
do. Well, yeah,
Well,
now,
break it down for us.
yeah, well, the lawsuit basically entailed that we define our relationships with, we've always had listings with our sellers, and now we have to have a contractual agreement with the buyer when they go out and look at real estate. So if you're a buyer who wants to take advantage of these open houses and you already have a contract with a buyer's representative, then you need to make that clear when you go to the open house. And if you don't, the agent who's conducting the open house will guide you through the process and show you what needs to be done.
Okay, so I mean, it is really like the whole concept in sports of like the free agent. You know, you can't just like jump from somebody to somebody if you are in fact represented by an agent currently.
That's right. When you go to open house right now, they're working on a law that states that every buyer should have a written representation agreement. And it's all about disclosure, clarifying who represents whom in any transaction. So if you go to an open house, make sure you can decide, do I want to be represented? And if you're already working with an agent and you walk into an open house, you have to disclose, I'm represented by so and so, and I have a written buyer's agreement with them. Now, it's not a requirement for right now for an individual. They could go in and say, well, I'm unrepresented, and therefore I want to look at the property, but I don't want an agent to represent me. I don't recommend that because everyone would need an agent representing them to give them the pros and cons in terms of the purchase process, documentation that are needed. You know, on the front end, we always want to give as much information regarding the purchase process to any potential buyer. Now, the open houses are terrific to expose the property to buyers. And for Gina and myself, as listing agents, we like to do that because it brings people in. And once they see the property and they fall in love with it, the objective is to get them to write up an offer.
And I would
So
think it would be consolidation for you two, so it's economies of scale as opposed to like having to do 40 different showings. You do one showing with 40 different people at the same time.
that's right. And of course, the objective for any agent who's conducting open house is also to find out, well, how many we would normally ask the questions. Well, is this your first time buying? Have you been looking at other houses? What's your budget? We want to establish parameters to determine, is this a potential looky-loo, or are they a real buyer that has been pre-qualified? Now, it's a little different if we're representing $1 million home. In those open houses, we would normally do a broker open house to allow a potential broker to come and preview it, bring their buyer that they have pre-qualified in order to show the home. At least Gina and I won't do a general open house to allow anyone to go through because we want pre-qualified buyers to review, homes that are over like the $1 million price range.
Yeah, exactly. And Gina, this is also interesting because if you are a seller, and you're going to have an open house, the supposition, at least from my naive standpoint, would be that this is a house that's already, furnished, it's currently being lived in, and I mean, you want to show off the very best aspects of that house, and I mean, you want it to be like as incredibly sellable as possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But we do open houses on empty properties as well. They're not always lived in, they're not always staged. I know in the States there's a lot of avenues that you could get staging, but here it's limited, it's expensive. So yeah, we do open houses. We've got owners that request to do open houses for properties they're currently living in, and we make accommodations and we can do that. Absolutely. But we also do open houses for properties that are not lived in. So you have an opportunity to walk through the home and it's empty and you can visualize your own stuff in there.
There
And
you
it
go. You
makes
can
it
see, you can
easy
see
for,
what it could be as opposed to
yeah,
what it
you
already
can
is.
see absolutely what you can make of it. And
If, uh,
so,
If a home is occupied, though, we would try to get them to declutter, to depersonalize the home. So as people come in, it's staged where their eyes won't be distracted from the too many things, in place. So sometimes we ask them to start boxing up certain items, or Gina and I will actually go in there and move things around and put
yeah.
stuff away to make the home more appealing when people come through.
I've been with you guys when you guys have been doing that at some of our on location like episodes. Gosh, the housekeeping staff at like most hotels has nothing on you guys when you guys start cleaning.
Well, we don't want things to distract people that are walking through the house. We want them to focus on the important parts of the property. And I myself, I find my eye goes to the things that are there. They're not necessarily included with the home, but they're lovely to look at. They're distracting or they're very interesting. And I'm not focused on the living room or the kitchen. I end up looking at that fantastic coffee machine and I'm distracted. So that's why we do it, to make sure the
Yes.
customers focus on the home. And
Okay,
and
now here's
open
something.
houses are a great opportunity for buyers to get out there and look. And sometimes you're really just looking. Sometimes you're just available and you want to go look at properties, and you know what? Come on by, talk to us. You'll learn something about real estate. We'll learn something about you. Gives you an opportunity. We're going to be there anyway, so come and look at the property. But what we want to point out is when you come to the property, if you are a serious buyer and you already have a buyer's representative agreement, which if you're looking at properties and you're serious, you've already signed up with somebody. If you haven't, then talk to us about it. We'll explain the process to you.
Okay, now here's something that I'm curious about, Liz, because we're all business people here, and we believe in fair market competition, right? And essentially, when you're putting a whole bunch of people in a room at the same time in an open house, they probably know each other because Guam is small, and we live on the island virtue of respect, so everybody gets along. But at the same time, you are competing for what could possibly be a real estate purchase of yours. So how do you see, the buyers kind of like interacting and realizing that they may actually be bidding for this at the same time?
Well, when we have people come through open house and we have, let's say, our agents there, we actually alternate. So if I'm working with you and it's my turn, then I'll take you through the house. Now, you as a potential buyer may already have a buyer's agreement, so we're just providing info on the home that you're visiting. And if not, we'll help guide you through the process in terms of how the process works. Now, as they come in our office, we don't compete. We help each other through the process. The competition is outside our office, but it's friendly competition. And again, we work with so many agents out there. Now, bringing up the open house, when people come through, when we set up an open house, it's great to get people to come in. If they're not represented, hopefully they may want to choose me or Gina or whomever that they want to work with. We're not offended if they do not choose us. We want individual buyers to feel comfortable with the person they're working with. And
Yeah.
so it could be someone else, and we're okay with that. We just want to serve the community by providing the information that they need. I mean, we tell people that pick an agent that you're comfortable with and you trust, and you feel like that they will represent your best interests.
Mhm.
So that's important to us, and we know that's more than likely important to a potential buyer. But an open house is great because it exposes the property and it gives people an idea of what they like, what they don't like, and how to move on with other properties. But some sellers want to do an open house every week. That's not the objective. It's like we would schedule an open house and then pick certain properties to do that. And we'll probably do that like every month or every other month. But it's really crazy if we do one every week because then the interest starts to wane. Right, Gina?
Yeah, yeah. And not only that, at some point you're just the people that come through aren't serious buyers. It gets to the point where they just want, I'm curious. I'm going to stop by and just look at it. I'm not necessarily interested, but I'll stop by and look. And that's not the objective of the sellers. So, and we'll guide for sellers, we're going to guide you through that. If it's appropriate, we'll let you know and we'll schedule it accordingly because we want what you want. We want your house to get sold.
Okay, I'd like to also talk about because this is fascinating to me and it's very very pertinent to making this a wonderful experience, and that is the key word, right? Much like what Uber did, where Uber drivers would provide like an iPhone in the back of the car and let the rider actually pick the music, or with Airbnbs, the landlord would like give their tenant like, oh, we leave like like chocolates or mints like on the on the pillow, or hey, here's some stuff and here's some maps about how to get around town and everything. How has the concept of open houses changed over the years so that you can actually create a very very positive experience for the people showing up? Because I've been to a couple and they say, oh, we have snacks on the side, we're doing a presentation with like maybe like a whiteboard and everything. We're not just asking you to come in and take a stroll through the house and everything like that. We want this to actually be something that you set aside an hour of your time and you're going to have a really good time, and you may also make some business contacts.
Well, what we try to do at open houses, we can have a loan officer available.
Oh, nice.
Also have not an appraiser, an escrow officer available. So the potential buyer can ask questions or even get pre-qualified at the open house to get an idea of what would they qualify for this home or what budget to establish for buying their first time home or an investment. The loan officers are great in providing the info. And then the escrow officer also will say, well, this is the process. This is how it works. You're going to need title insurance. So having both expertise available at the open houses are wonderful. I mean, it definitely makes a difference on top of having some snacks. I mean, it's not full blown, but at least donuts or cookies or something to that effect.
No, the ones that I've been to, Liz, and it wasn't just finger sandwiches. I mean, this was like hotel quality, like bit like like your son, like Chef Peter stuff over in Mescala. You had wonderful sandwiches. They may have had maybe some champagne. I mean, I guess it really does depend on what kind of experience you're trying to create for the people that show an interest.
And I think the quality of the price of the home will give you an indicator of, how you're going to stage that for the incoming buyers.
Okay, Gina, what about if you're talking about like condos, and it's not, you're not just talking about like a house that's kind of like, it's got its own yard and it's got like its own driveway and it's separated by at least a few feet from the adjacent neighbors and everything. With a condo, you're actually saying you're going to be part of a much larger community. How would you set up an open house for that kind of property?
I mean, when we set up the open house, we're showcasing the unit itself, whether it's a home or condominium. And if you have the added benefit of having an association, a common area facility, then, like if it were up to me to set up and I'm setting it up for my listing, it's a condo, I'm going to do this as a team. So you can walk through the common area facility with another agent. I might perhaps stay in the unit to show people around the unit. We'll take turns, but yeah, we definitely set it up that way. Or we'll give you a flyer so you can walk around the little community and just go take a look at the pool, the tennis court, depending on what association you're in. Some associations aren't very open to having these types of events taking place at their community because for security reasons. So it really depends on the facility. It depends on the owner and what his association is going to allow.
Yeah, I guess I can see that because some people might, I mean, some people may be very, very open to it because it's a chance for the residents already there to kind of like see who may be moving in and vice versa.
Yeah, and
They're
some
joining that
associations-
community. Huh.
Yeah, and some aren't because the whole concept of an open house is you've got your doors open, you're allowing anybody who chooses to come in, whether you've qualified them or not, to come and take a look. And some associations are, for security reasons, don't want to allow something like that. But
Okay.
again, depending on the owner and the property, we can accommodate.
And then I'm going to wrap up with maybe another sports analogy is Liz, what is the batting average of open houses compared to like, regular, let's call it like, regular showings and everything like that? Do open houses tend to close the deal either better or faster or more frequently?
I think an open house gives it more exposure and the chances of selling are good. I mean, Gina and I have had great experiences with our open houses where we actually sold a home to an individual who came in. But in terms of the percentages, I would say 80-20 and 20% possibilities of selling it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, bonus question, and this one's for you, Gina. Because we've been ending all our episodes like this. Now, what about open houses for commercial properties?
I've not actually in my years of doing real estate, I have not personally done one for commercial properties.
They do exist though, right?
You can do them. I imagine you could do an open house on anything.
Or is it pretty much like if you're a certain like business owner and you know the kind of facility that you're looking to get into, whether it's a warehouse, whether it's an office building, whether it's a, smaller operation, everything, you know what you want already.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you know what you can afford, or you know what you're trying to afford. And so commercial properties, we don't typically do open houses for that because, usually it's a much bigger price range, right? And so those customers aren't going to just stop by because you happen to be there on a Saturday, Sunday, or sometime during the weekday. They tend to be very busy people and they prefer to have an appointment. So they come, walk through the property, ask their questions. They're in, they're out, they're done.
Or they might have like
for commercial.
a dedicated staffer that takes care of that stuff and maybe a team of attorneys that goes out and, like site inspectors and whatever.
No, in our community, I find that the actual business owner is the one who comes out and looks.
Okay, interesting.
But only when they're good and ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, timing is everything.
Yes.
That's right.
All right. Well, it's our time to put this episode in the history books. Ladies, this was a fascinating topic. I really enjoyed this.
Thanks.
Okay, and is there a schedule when open houses are held, particularly by your brokerage, and where can people like find that? So if they want to like stop by and everything, they can check it out.
We have a schedule that we're putting together, so they can call to say, hey, what's your schedule for open houses and which properties? Because bear in mind, as we list properties, some move fairly quickly, some may still be available. So it just depends on our inventory at the time, but our agents have kind of scheduled different months and days for open houses. And again, subject to availability of that particular property, because if it goes pending, then we're going to have to shift to put another property on the list.
There you go.
We had a few over the weekend, Jace, and we're skipping this weekend because, of course, it's Mother's Day weekend.
Yep, and happy Mother's Day to you both, and Grandmother's Day.
Thank you.
And great grandmother.
And great grandmother's day.
Yes.
Hey, and Godmother's Day, and if you're a foster mother, if you're an adoptive mother, if you're a stepmother, that's Mother's Day, and blessings to you too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, let me know when your next open house is because I just really, really enjoy seeing you guys in action.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.